Hello, listeners, and welcome back. Today, we are going to be discussing the movie Beastly. Before we start, I need to warn that I will be going through the movie and book story and plot, meaning that the following content can contain spoilers. Links to where to get access to the movie and book will be in the description below for any of those who want to check it out and then come back. As for those of you who have seen the book, movie, both, or just don't care about spoilers, let's begin. Beastly is a teen romance fantasy movie set in the modern day time in New York City. The movie was released in 2011 and is based on the book with the same name written by Alex Finn. Recap. Beastly is essentially the modern day adaptation of one of our favourite fairy tale classics, Beauty and the Beast. We follow a young, obnoxious teen named Kyle at the top of his high school career, made to believe that money and good looks are what make you popular. All is right in his world until one day he makes the mistake of bad-mouthing the wrong student one too many times. Kyle is then given one last chance to change. When he does not take it, it is revealed that the student is actually a witch. The witch then proceeds to put a spell on Kyle, taking away the one thing that he holds dearest the most, his looks. Kyle is then given 1 year to find someone that will love him. If he does not find someone in this time, however, the spell will become permanent. Characters. So, we're introduced to 6 main characters throughout the film. One is being Kyle's dad, played by Peter Cross. We are first introduced to him when he comes home from work and Kyle is trying to tell him about his election day at school, how he was voted president of the environmental club. Constantly trying to find new ways to tell his dad and get his attention. However, none of them seem to work. His father will not take his attention away from work for even a few seconds to talk to his son. After seeing this interaction between Kyle and his dad, we come to understand why Kyle is the way that he is, as we see that he is neglected in his home life and is constantly seeking validation from those around him. Our next character is Zola, played by Liza Gay Hamilton, and she was our sweet, kind, caring maid. Her job is to take care of all of Kyle's needs and wants. We come to learn that she has 3 kids that live with their father back in Jamaica, and she has had to move to the US for work. Zola becomes a real companion to Kyle throughout his time as a beast, constantly keeping him on track and offering him guidance when needed. Kyle comes to care for Zola more and more as the movie goes on, and we come to see them form a new, better, respectful relationship compared to the one that we saw earlier in the film. Our next character, Will, played by Neil Patrick Harris, is a blind tutor that Kyle's dad has hired to help Kyle with his schoolwork. We come to learn that Will lost his sight at age 15, yet despite all this, still a very humorous and down-to-earth person. Will still takes joy in doing average activities such as golfing and darts. Will quickly becomes a companion and friend to Kyle as he is constantly there to spill out words of wisdom and challenge Kyle with his attitude when needed. Will and Kyle's relationship isn't all just fun and games, as Will becomes a real companion to Kyle and helps relate to him by explaining the struggles that he also had to go through while losing his sight at the age of 15. Will also has the ability to spill out words of wisdom from time to time, one example being, "It's not how others see me, it's how I see myself," reminding Kyle that he is the only one who should care how he looks. Will and Kyle's relationship has all the aspects one needs for a perfect friendship. Plus, they are just an overall joy to watch on screen. Kendra, played by Mary-Kate Olsen, is the one that started it all. She is known for her dark clothing, heavy makeup, and bold personality. She is often referred to at school as the loner gothic chick with a witch personality, which is even more ironic when it is revealed that she is indeed a real witch. Kendra only shows up a few times throughout the film to remind Kyle that he is the reason that this has happened and only he holds the power. Lindy, played by Vanessa Hudgens, is our main female protagonist in the movie. She is at Kyle's school on scholarship, as she is not as rich as most of the students that go there. We know that She lives with her dad that is involved with drugs, and she is saving for this Machu Picchu trip and has been for the last 3 years. And we find out that it's very important to her to go, as it's sort of like the only thing that she's been able to do for herself in like for as long as she can remember, really. This, however, is all turned on its head when she finds out that she needs to go live with, as far as she knows, an old friend of her dad's to keep safe. But we know as an audience that it's actually Kyle, or in her view, Hunter. And due to this, she has had to quit school, and that means leaving the trip. So obviously when she first gets there, she's extremely mad and upset and doesn't really know what to do. However, as time goes on, she gets to know Zola and Will, and eventually Hunter or Kyle as well, and she opens up a bit more, and we get to learn more about her and her love for reading, roses, and music. We come to learn more about her mother and how she died. We learn how she's had to take care of her father ever since then, and how that being with Kyle, of course, first felt like being in hell or in her own prison. But she has learned or come to realize that the more and more time that she spends there, and the more time that she gets to know Kyle and form a relationship with him, she quickly realizes that this may have been the best thing that's ever happened to her. Last but not least, we have Kyle, played by Alex Pettyfer. When we first meet him, we see that in his home life, he does not get much attention at all from his father, and he can barely get a few words in before his father's got his face back in his phone. This has caused him to seek validation through popularity, look down on other students, and believe that only looks matter. His whole life is turned on his head when he accidentally crosses the wrong student, Kendra, that turns out to be a witch and casts a spell on him. Now as a beast, Kyle is forced to accept the realities of his life. He needs to accept the fact that his father just doesn't care. He needs to accept the fact that his friends don't like him despite what he may think. Just because he was good looking and popular doesn't really mean that everyone necessarily liked him. Things do get better, however, as time goes on, as Kyle is forced to accept his feelings, and he actually finds solitude in his housemates with Zola and Will. Things only continue to look up when Lindy comes and lives with him, and he learns more about her and just a new way of thinking and looking at things. He comes to learn new skills, such as building a greenhouse. He comes to expand his knowledge on poems and express his feelings in new forms, such as a love letter. By the end, we see that Kyle's character has done a complete 360 from when we saw him at the beginning of the film. We watch him go from selfish to selfless. Purpose. There are two purposes directed to audiences throughout the film. Between change and can someone change for the better. The second purpose is by seeing someone for who they are and not what they look like or what they may have. We watch Kyle navigate these changes as the movie takes place, start seeing the changes that he makes through the relationships with the other characters. He comes to form a sweet, caring relationship with Zola and starts to see her more as a companion rather than just a helping hand. It doesn't take long for Will and Kyle to form a relationship either, as from the minute that they meet, Will is able to match Kyle's wittiness and banter. This then quickly escalates into a witty but solid friendship. When forming a relationship with Lindsay, Kyle learns to grasp a new perspective on things. By spending more and more time with Lindsay, Kyle comes more in tune with his feelings and learns how to admit them out loud. For example, his relationship with his father, he comes to express to Lindy. He also expressed to Lindy that after his mother passed away, his father had never been the same or paid him any amount of attention. This gives Kyle the opportunity to express his feelings and also allows Lindy to express how she also has had troubles with her father. This allows them to connect on a deeper level and have more of an understanding about one another. Through his relationship with Lindsay, Kyle comes to not only better himself for her, but better himself within his own life. What are the main plots, events, and actions? The first main event to occur within the film is the interaction we see between Kyle and his father at the beginning. This interaction shows our first insight of Kyle's life and why he is the way that he is. We see that from the neglection from his father, he craves validation and attention from his fellow students and truly believes that good looks are the key to success. Kyle being cast with the spell is the second main event we get within the film. The spell is a main plot point as that this triggers the events that occur within the rest of the film. Due to the spell, Kyle is turned to what he deems unattractive, with scars on his face and body. He has a year to find someone that loves him. A tattoo tree on his arm works as the time. When the tree blossoms again, his time is up. Only the words, "I love you," can break the spell. If he does not find someone to break the spell within a year, he will forever stay this way. After 5 whole months of being a beast and locking himself away, Kyle decides to go to a Halloween party that his school hosts. There, he finds his former best friend and girlfriend hooking up, talking about how they never really liked him that much and felt like they always had to be mean. On hearing this, obviously makes Kyle feel even worse about how he feels. This is until he runs into Lindy, of course, where she defends Kyle, not realizing that she is, of course, talking to him. This is where she also expresses her love for the old romantic gestures, such as love letters, and how nobody seems to do things like that anymore. After the conversation with Lindsay at the Halloween party, Kyle becomes more intrigued and starts to find out more about her. One night when watching Lindsay, he says that she is frantically starting to look for her father. When he hears chaos, he runs over to see what happens. Seeing that they are being held at gunpoint, Kyle rushes to help. Liddy gets knocked out and he carries her away to safety. When he comes back, he sees that Lindsay's dad has killed one of the drug dealers. One of the drug dealers claims that it was his brother and now he wants revenge on Lindsay. Kyle, of course, gets worried for Lindsay and convinces her father to get her to come live with him in order for her safety. When Lindsay arrives, she knows Kyle as Hunter and believes that she is staying with an old family friend of her father's. One night, after Lindsay's been there for a while and Kyle has learned to loosen up about how he looks, they have a friendly conversation, and this is where Kyle reveals his true looks to her. Lindsay, unaffected, then gives Kyle the confidence to invite her to more things such as his tutoring lessons. A big key turning point in Lindsay and Kyle's relationship is the one night that they sneak out to go to the zoo. While there, he shows Lindsay an old film he watched as a kid the day that he found out his mother had left. This scene shows Kyle being truly vulnerable with his feelings for the first time and fully opening up about how he feels not only about his dad but what happened with his mother. This then leads to Lindsay also opening up more about her father and mother. Lindsay and Kyle both learn that they lost their mothers at a young age and have fathers that are absent within their lives. They both share this kind of family trauma, which then helps form their now growing relationship. Despite their growing relationship, Kyle still sees that Lindsay feels trapped. In order to help with this, he suggests taking her away to his father's lake house for the weekend. It starts off being the perfect idea as they are away from everything and everyone and allows them to connect on a different, more personal level. However, just as things are going perfectly is when everything falls apart. When they go to share an almost kiss, Lindsay gets a call saying that her father is OD'd and she must leave right away. As they frantically rush to the train station, Kyle freaks out as he feels this is the last time he'll have to admit his feelings to Lindsay. Before she gets on the train, Kyle hands her the love letter that he's been writing. Now with Lindsay gone, Kyle feels stupid in thinking that she could ever feel the same way about him as he does about her. Kyle goes back to isolating himself until he finds out that Lindsay has gone back to school and is going on the Machu Picchu trip. Seeing as this might be his final opportunity, Kyle sprints to the school to express one last time how he feels to Lindsay, not caring who sees him, how they react, or whether or not he breaks the spell. All he cares about is getting to Lindsay on time. Kyle does break the spell, however, and gets turned back into his old self. Lindsay comes looking for him but does not recognize that it is Hunter, as she can only now see him as Kyle. Lindsay quickly realizes that Hunter and Kyle are indeed the same person when she gets a good look into his eyes. Likes and dislikes. For dislikes, I didn't find any, besides, of course, Kyle's behaviour at the beginning and his dad's behaviour. We also don't like, as we can see, the negative impact that it did take on Kyle. Besides the obvious romantic appeal about the movie, other things to like about it shall include the fantasy element. I think the idea of two people that are very different coming together and fighting each other is really interesting. It's an easy, fun, funny movie that still seems to have depth as it has elements of change. The characters are very likable and fun, mine including Will, as he is just very laid back, down to earth and funny. I love the water scene where him and Kyle are sitting around the table together and he's pouring a glass of water and it gets higher and higher and higher, and Kyle doesn't know whether or not to stop him or if he knows what he's doing, and he realizes when he goes to stop him that it was Joe, like Will was playing a joke on him the whole time. Was just messing with him. It's a good example of the relationship that they have and start to form, plus it's just really fun for the audience. But overall, I think just it being a fun, easy teen romance movie is what makes it fun and enjoyable to watch, as it holds a little bit of something for everyone to enjoy. So yeah, that's what I think. Please feel free to comment what you think, your thoughts and opinions, what you like, what you didn't like, and we will discuss. Changes from movie to book. One of the biggest changes from the book to the movie would be Kyle's transformation. In the movie, he has scars and tattoos all over his body and face, whereas in the book his character is described as having fur all over his body and real claws. Another noticeable difference from movie to book would be the mirror that Kendra gives Kyle after casting the spell. This mirror they use in the book to communicate between one another and comes as a helpful tool to Kyle when Lindy's in danger at the end of the book. Zola's character is the next big difference we see moving from book to movie. In the movie, we know her as Zola, whereas in the book, she is known as Magda. Later in the book, you also find out that the character of Magda is also Kendra. It's like a little plot twist added at the end of the book, whereas in the movie, Kendra and Zola's characters are two separate people. Pilot, Will's dog in the book, did not make an appearance in the movie, which in my opinion is quite unfortunate because it's always nice to see a dog around. Another noticeable difference would be when Kyle decides to take her out of town to his lake house. In the book, it's actually winter and snowed and the lake is frozen over, so they spend all week there doing, snowboarding and building snowmen and sitting, having hot chocolate by the fire and stuff, and it's more of like a cozy environment, whereas in the movie it's like a lake summer house sort of vibe, so they spend more of their time, it's more swimming vibes, rather than cozy campfire. And the last noticeable difference between book and movie would have to be the ending. When Lindy leaves in the movie, Kyle finds out that she's leaving for a Machu Picchu trip and runs to try and get there in time. However, in the book, Kyle finds out that she's actually in danger and being attacked by one of her dad's old drug buddies. So he runs to rescue her and there's a full-on fight scene and everything. So it's a little bit more intense what goes on at the end of the book rather than the movie. But yeah, that's it. Overall, none of these differences overly changed the outcome of the movie or the representation overall. They're just some of the few big differences I noticed moving from book to movie, but of course let me know some of your biggest differences, maybe which one you preferred, what you might have liked to have seen from book to movie. Let me know. Overall, this modern retelling of The Beauty and the Beast is a fun watch for anyone looking for a relaxing romance movie. And even though the story is predominantly based around romance, it still holds a story of forming friendship and change within oneself. So, that is all for this episode. Please feel free to leave any comments discussing your opinions, feelings, and thoughts on the movie or book. Link to the movie and book and my socials will be linked in the description below. Thanks for listening.